I'm Robin Gagnon.
And I'm Eric Gagnon, and we sell restaurants. We started the nation's largest restaurant brokerage firm, We Sell Restaurants, over a decade ago. You can find us online at WeSellRestaurants.com.
We're on your radio once a week with the leading authorities in this industry, talking about subjects trending in the restaurant business. Tweet your own questions on our topics while we're on the air to our Twitter handle, Sell Restaurants, or post them on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/We Sell Restaurants. If we don't get to your question, we'll certainly follow up on social media.
Our goal is to satisfy your appetite for acquisition, feed the need for restaurant reality, and serve up a recipe for business success. If you have any ideas for the show or any comments, you can email me at Eric, E-R-I-C, at WeSellRestaurants.com.
Well, today we're taking on the topic of public relations, or PR. What's the role of PR for today's restaurateurs? How do you find the right branding firm who can handle everything from design to communications? How has the traditional role of PR changed in the new digital world, where customers go viral with comments and video live from their table in your restaurant? We're on the air interviewing public relation experts and restaurant owners on this topic.
Yeah, our first guest today, Robin, is Elizabeth Moore. Elizabeth is a partner at Green Olive Media, an award-winning branding firm specializing in design, communication, concepting, and ideation. Green Olive Media is a team of thinkers, consultants, designers, marketers, strategists, and public relations professionals specializing in creating unique and impactful solutions for both new and existing brands. The company's work is largely based in the food and beverage industry. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, in addition to Elizabeth, we also have a client of Green Olive Media, Chris Martha. Chris is the assistant general manager at the prestigious Georgian Terrace Hotel. Chris started working in hospitality at an early age and has developed such concepts as McRae's West Village Tavern, located in the Smyrna Vinings area of Atlanta, along with serving stints as general manager for both La Pietra Cucina and Spice. His latest creation came in June of 2012 when the Georgian Terrace Hotel asked him to repurpose an abandoned basement space. Martha and his team went on to work up and create Proof and Provision. This craft cocktail bar is a real hit in this area, and they serve up an array of snacks and drinks in an approachable yet intimate environment. The bar has garnered great press and praise from the likes of Details magazine and Garden and Gun. Chris, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we also have, already we've had to this great panel, Alex Hinojosa. Alex is the Vice President of Media Operations and Strategy at EMSI Public Relations, where he oversees the creative process and execution of print, radio, TV, and social media campaigns. He's been an integral part in securing media placement and building social media connections for clients ranging from the creators of E-Myth series to executive producers of The Dark Knight, iRobot, and Halloween, and also the owner of an NBA franchise. His PR expertise has been featured in numerous publications, including the New York Post, Chicago Tribune, Kiplinger's Magazine, and In-Store Magazine. Alex also is a media coach. Alex also media coaches EMSI's clients. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, well, great panel this morning, and I want to kick this off by Elizabeth, let's start with you. Your bio indicates you actually started in public accounting, working with large companies like Turner Broadcasting and Coca-Cola, and now you advise clients in brand development. So tell us, what is that process for helping a restaurant client develop a brand, and how does your past experience aid you in this?
Well, I had the good fortune of working in public accounting with several different types of hospitality-related businesses, but also in banks that just so happen to finance them. So being able to count the dollars definitely has helped when directing a marketing and public relations plan. So, and our role essentially has evolved over the last 15, 16 years as well, from looking at the restaurant from the outside in, from a financial standpoint, to expanding our business to include brand development, design, public relations, marketing programs, and whatnot. A lot of that's been, in response to the economy, honestly, and to the rising needs, from the restaurateurs and hotelers that we work with. So that's been a big part of why I think that my background is unique, and that it started in one direction, but sort of evolved over time, just as the business has.
Sounds like a lot of restaurant operators.
Hey, Alex, your resume is quite impressive, and you have clients around the world. And can you weigh in for us a little bit about how does someone begin the creative process when they come to you and say, "Hey, let's build a brand"?
I think one of the important things is to make sure you're answering that question that's age-old in marketing, but certainly in trying to attain media, and that's what's in it for me. So when you're going after, obviously, in the creation of a brand, you want to think about your target consumer, your target audience, the person that you want walking through those doors. And once you've identified who those people are, then you can really begin to decipher where it is, the type of media that you want to go to, and the type of messaging that you want to make sure you want to get across during the attainment of those media placements, or if you're taking it outside of the idea of publicity and you're going to events and community relations. Again, once you know who that target consumer is, you can certainly better speak to them.
Okay, now, Chris, you're on the opposite side of the fence because you're actually a restaurateur who's relied on the services of public relations firms. So tell us a little bit about that process when you go to someone and say, "Hey, I'm building a new brand, brainstorm with me, fill in the blank." What happens?
Well, I think in the beginning it's very important to understand that you're building yourself a team. When you're in operations, it's very easy to get the proverbial blinders on, and you need people working for you that can keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on, not just in your market, but in markets outside of ours. So there's so much going on in our industry, and to really keep that finger on the pulse, you have relationships like Elizabeth and I have had for 10 years, working with a company that can, help you keep things fresh, help you keep things relevant, and help things, continue to be organic so that you're doing the best you can to satisfy the expectations of your clients.
That's a good side of it. I like that your answer on this. Let's talk a bit, all three of you, about this. We have more and more celebrity chefs coming out there. Restaurants are all the time on television. I mean, it seems like every day there's a new show about restaurants or food service. People cannot stop. Social media is also something that is also hot, and so much work to do on there. Do you feel like PR today is something that went from 10 years ago nice to have to a must have?
Elizabeth, you want to start?
It's a must-have, definitely. I mean, controlling the message when you're developing a new restaurant concept, and really getting in front of it before folks have a chance to maybe misunderstand the intent. I think that we're all fighting for that same discretionary dollar these days, and so getting in front of the message by social media, which is a lot more obviously immediate. And then having great relationship with writers and editors who help craft for you. So yeah, it's definitely a must right now.
Okay, Alex, I suspect your answer will be must have, but tell us why.
I mean, I hate to be a parent, but I certainly agree with the idea of it being a must-have. And listen, there's a competition for attention, and you just talked about with all of the various shows that are coming out, obviously with the new competition that's coming out. It's because of that you certainly want to be proactive. The old saying is, it's not, if you will build it, they will come. You obviously need to let people know about what it is that you've built and how it plays into what they need and or want. So I certainly believe that you have to constantly be thinking with, how am I going to be in the media? How am I going to be out in the community? How am I going to be building those relationships with my potential customers? And also, too, with those members of the media so they can help you accomplish that mission. You must do it.
And Chris, as an operator, in the past 10 or 12 years, you've been in this business for a long period of time. Have you seen that shift in priorities for you, where you're saying, yes, PR is really top of the list when I'm building my business model and when I am building my budgeting for a new business?
Yeah, I would definitely say a must-have. I mean, I would reference technology with the way technology is changing these days, especially when it comes to social media. There's so much to really keep your finger on the pulse, and without some sort of partner in that arena, you're just not going to be able to do it as well as you'd like to. There's so much to concentrate on day in and day out. There's so many personalities to manage in our industry that, without a partner in that arena, then you're probably not doing yourself the best justice you can.
Yeah, I agree with you. And as a restaurant broker, we look at the financial statement of a lot of restaurants every single day. And I'll tell you what, though, it's still at the tip of the iceberg. We don't see a lot of people having huge budgets for PR or marketing. We still see people spending They make $1 million a year in sales, and we see $4,000 a year, which is incredible to us. It should be something that is part of your day-to-day and core expenses.
Well, and social media is so much cheaper when you look at the evolution of PR and advertising in particular. Print advertising is just terribly expensive. When you think about the almost incredibly inexpensive form that social media is, you're not tapping that source. You're just not doing your business justice.
Okay, we said social media at least 3 times now, so we got to talk about it. So, this is the big social elephant in the room, I guess. Back, I remember when we started as a business broker 10 years ago, the biggest fear of most restaurateurs was to have the local newspaper food critic walking in their space on a bad night and give them a bad review in the Sunday newspaper. That's almost like a dinosaur. I don't think it even exists anymore. Now, everybody's a food critic, immediately food critic. So how do we manage that? How do we, how do you, what's the role of a PR company to really help you maximizing on this social frenzy?
Let's get Alex to weigh in.
I think one of the most important things, especially as it relates to social media, is to remember what you just said. It's everybody is now a food critic. And so it used to be in the old days. I'm assuming I've never run a restaurant, but I've seen shows, and one of you could probably back me up where it's if the food critics coming in, you're putting the best people in, you're making sure the best people are serving, et cetera, et cetera. Now it almost backs up to the idea of the hiring process and understanding that every single person in that restaurant potentially that is working for you needs to be on some level on board in the face of the franchise, because they are touching people who, if they do not have a positive experience, can immediately run out, hop on Facebook, hop on Yelp, whatever it might be, and begin writing a bad review or whatever it might be. So again, it kind of starts with the idea of whom you're hiring. And then the other part of it, too, is to make sure that you are monitoring. You still even see some restaurants that might not check a Facebook status for a week. You might still see some restaurants that aren't offering incentives via Instagram or Foursquare to make sure that people are proactively saying nice things in an organic way as opposed to waiting almost for something bad to happen first.
Oh, that's never a good thing. So, Elizabeth, what do you think in terms of social media?
Definitely to capitalize on what Alex just mentioned. I think engagements, is something that's very important early and often. It's catching the messages and having someone in within your staff, within your 4 walls, who are monitoring, what's being said about you and reacting, and not ignoring, the Yelp comment or the Twitter or the Facebook post. But I do beg to differ. I still fear the restaurant critic. Healthy respect for the restaurant critics out there. But definitely everyone's has an impactful message these days.
And Chris, do you have your PR firm, Green Olive, monitor as well as make sure that you're engaging and getting back to your customers?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, we've even encouraged certain lead bartenders and things like that with the oncoming of craft cocktails and making drinks becoming such an amazing form of entertainment to tweet or Instagram pictures of the latest cocktail of the day. We'll do the same thing with food. Again, for us, it really comes to the grassroots of restaurants is entertainment. People are out to dine, to be entertained, and with mediums as like social media, now there's ways for that sense of entertainment to go beyond the 4 walls of your restaurant, to actually get out on a daily basis, to what is virtually a pretty young crowd, because social media has come about because of a very youthful crowd that has gotten into it. And our industry is very much in tune with what that crowd is doing. So it's important for us to stay in touch, and of course we use Green Olive a lot to help us, with the messaging we should be sending, and again, what's relevant to today, and even the seasons. Our business changes so radically. It's not necessarily something we look annually at. We look very much seasonally at, especially when it comes to food.
Right.
I want to add to that really quickly, because I think a really good point was made about the idea, especially when it comes to social media, of what you would call image content. Just making sure that those people in the business understand that obviously photos of great food on social media work. Even the idea, and it's a great idea, by the way, if you have a bartender that's really flashy, makes a great drink, and it turns into like these little mini events that happen throughout the night, creating a little video or a vine or something along the ways, that again on your social networks and even potentially too on your website can help enhance, what the overall feel is, beyond the four walls, as was mentioned.
I'm going to jump in here for a second. This is Elizabeth. With Chris's situation, it's unique as well because he runs the hotel, but he also has responsibilities over 4 different restaurant centers. So he has a cafe, he has a fine dining restaurant, he has a bar, Proof and Provision, and then he has like a private events department. So he actually is running 4 different types of content, and that voice is very different for each of the 4 unique handles that he's having to manage or having his staff manage. So for instance, his bartenders at the bar, Proof and Provision, they have a very, very, very different voice than the folks that are speaking for the 100-year-old Georgian Terrace Hotel. We have a very, very, very conservative audience with the hotel. It's an iconic institution, so we have to be very sensitive to certain topics. But with Proof and Provision, it's very tongue-in-cheek and very quippy and a little racy at times. So
I think that is absolutely a really great call out because that's where the expertise of a PR firm comes into play. As the owners of restaurants may not actually sit down and consider who are the personas of the different elements of my business model, because even your lunch crowd can be dramatically different from your cocktail or happy hour crowd. So I think that's definitely where some expertise comes into play. And is that something that evolves over building a relationship with a client over time? How much is there, because I heard Chris use the word partner, and I think that's an important element of PR. Do you consider your restaurants that you work with to be your kind of their partners in what they're doing?
absolutely. I mean, their success is our success. I mean, honestly, I look at it like baseball. Everybody laughs at me because I use a lot of baseball analogies, and so I want my top 10. I want my guys on my ball team to all represent well us, the city, themselves to their management staff, and we have a lot of bosses these days. We have investors and landlords and you all who are out there brokering the restaurant deals. I thought I might shift the conversation a little bit back to something that might bring Alex into this conversation as well. With Chris, the reason I brought him on as our guest is he had a unique opportunity 2 or 3 years ago with some dead space at his hotel. It was about 3,000 square feet of remnant space. They weren't doing anything with it. And so Chris came to us as a partner because we've been friends and colleagues for 10 years, and he said, you know what, I really want to do something with this space, and how great would it be to really give this hotel that's 100 years old a shot in the arm. So we came together and we developed a concept, this Proof and Provision bar, and literally into a space that was nothing, and then used the power of PR and brand to create we've got a couple $1 million that we're probably doing in revenue out of a basement space that was formerly storage. So I think talking about the message that PR what we were able to do with PR, and then what we were able to do with Chris's capital investment, getting from the ownership.
So jump in there then, Alex. Have you participated in a similar way to actually creating a concept from the ground up in partnership with a client?
Certainly, a lot of times, the type of businesses that we operate with are usually startups. A lot of startups, entrepreneurs, a lot of times with apps. And one of the things that we find, no matter what it is that you're working with in the concept of PR, if you will, is, when you're going out, is problem solution. So, by the way, I love that idea that you turned, a space that was literally used for storage into something that's, bringing in $2 million. And that's part of what the challenge and fun can be, is being a team member. When somebody brings to you, an idea or a concept for an app for social media, and they're one of the very first people on the scene, and then you have to create the stories around what that brand is, and then going out and getting the right messaging and getting the right media that then helps explode that. That, quite honestly, I think is a lot of times why we're in the business that we're in, to help others succeed.
I agree. This is very interesting conversation. Hopefully, the listeners out there are learning a couple things about the value of PR and everything. And Chris, you've launched multiple brands, and over your time, have you always used PR? Has it always been from 10 years ago? Like, hey, I always want to have a PR partner with me from day one to help building this venture?
I think our experience together when it came to putting virtual provision on the map was really the first time that I was involved from literally start to finish. You know, as really the person who orchestrated the project and brought people in that I either had relationships with or, you know, that I felt were going to create that team as I spoke to. You know, when we started this thing, the chef on property at the time and I, you know, got with the branding side of Green Olive, and they put together a trip to New York. They laid out everything as far as where we're going to go, what we're going to look at. And again, I think, you know, great concepts always come from great ideas. Even the greatest of ideas don't always get up off the ground. And I think if you don't employ someone like a Green Olive, and sometimes I think those great ideas just kind of get left where they are and never really become anything at all. And, you know, we went to New York with a great idea in mind. And we went to 15 bars in 3 days.
There's some stories in
Sounds
that
like a
trip.
lot of fun there.
Without a doubt. And, you know, I think we came back, you know, with a couple things. You know, we came back with, you know, pretty much a solid feeling that what we had as an idea was legit. It could be done. It was fairly new to the market that we were putting it in. And, you know, it was, you know, again, like Alex said, it was research. You know, it was very fun research, but it was research and, you know, it served its purpose. And, you know, it even brought certain, probably broadened the idea to some extent, you know, and seeing other things and people doing things other ways. It was great.
Well, we only have about a minute and a half left before we go into a break. So, Alex, I'm going to call on you because I know you can use that time wisely. It sounds like PR firms have evolved way beyond writing that press release into branding, developing ideas that you may start with a logo, but you're going to end all the way in the interior or exterior. In your mind, where does a PR firm begin and end for a restaurant?
Well, I think one of the most important things to keep in mind is exactly who they are and what they want to be. And, of course, incorporating what is that brand. Because a lot of times, you know, we'll work with other strategic partners who, you know, there's this full arm of marketing. That PR is just one aspect of it. There's the advertising aspect of it. There are the other aspects, community relations, et cetera, whatever it might be. So it's making sure that you're working in a really nice harmony with all of the team members. And I think it's a very important word, team members, to make sure that you're on the same page and going off and succeeding in the way that you do. But it all starts with that brand and making sure that the messages match what that brand is. Sometimes it might be, you know, kind of the easy get to go outside of the brand to get, you know, what might be potentially a great media hit, you would think. But if it's not right for the brand, then you know, sometimes you have to check yourself to make sure.
Okay. Hold that thought, Alex. We're going to return after the break. You're on the air with Eric and Robin Gagnon. We're the Restaurant Brokers. We're joined today by Green Olive Media, Chris Martha from the Georgian, and Alex Hinojosa from EMSI. Today's show is sponsored by Today's Restaurant News. Today's Restaurant News is the food service industry newspaper for the restaurant industry. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.